SPARZA to keep the Competition Commission away from us, that we agree that this is not an anti-competitive meeting. So that's our first interesting thing. And then general rules, you must probably all know them by now. If you could just disable your videos, I will disable once we get the speakers starting. We stay muted unless you want to talk. Raise your hand. If you don't know, look there on the screen, there's a little hand. And if we could keep a discussion short and to the point, and confirmation that this meeting will be recorded, and then our computer guy with the office of Aspaza will put it on somewhere. I'm not too sure how. So I see the recording has started, and everything will be recorded for anybody who then afterwards would like to see it. If there's a major objection that we record the talk, then I don't know how we do that then, but yeah. So that's roughly the welcome. Thanks to the sponsors, thanks to everybody. And I think what I'm going to do then, just to ask you to be safe. I hope on the lighter side that you've got, you know, where your escape route is. You've got your fire extinguisher and you've got your mask on. I see Kevin has got his mask on. So he's projecting his mask. Kevin, how many other people? Okay, so we've got 220 people. I think we start, and I'm going to ask Lo Kannemeyer. Most probably all of you know Lo. He's the main one, Sanral, and he's going to share a lot of information. Lo, I saw you came in, so you could maybe just show us your face.
Good morning, Nico. Yes, I'm here, Nico.
Thanks, Lo.
Can you hear?
Thanks. Yeah, we can hear you. Thanks. Up to you, Lo.
So will you stop sharing so that I can just share the presentation, Nico?
Okay. I'll ask the office just to take the agenda off. Anneke, there we go.
Can you all see, Nico?
Yes. Yeah, I can see. I don't know if we can make it bigger, but it's fine. It's quite well sized. We've got 224 people that have joined, so low. It's a big turnout. Fantastic. And over to you, and I will shut up and disappear.
Yeah, okay. I think thanks for the opportunity. I think very much the nature of the presentation this morning is just to give an update based on what we've done previously when Dumi presented in May in terms of the Sunroll project rollout, in terms of where we stand and what is impacting what. I think as you would have seen, obviously we can only put out projects for which we have budget available. And Sunroll has two budget streams. We've got a non-toll budget stream coming from National Treasury via the Department of Transport. And then we've got obviously the toll budget stream. That is where we go to the market and we are able to borrow money, which we then repay using toll revenue. As you can see here on the graph on the top, if everything was going according to plan and Sunroll was able to borrow money, that is where we were projected to be in terms of our toll and non-toll combined. However, because of the e-toll future not being resolved, and it's still not resolved, Sunroll was not able to go to the market and borrow money for projects on our toll portfolio, as the e-toll project is part of the Sunroll toll portfolio. As a result, that ability of us to borrow money, that gap vanished. So the projects linked to that on our toll portfolio, we're not able to put out to market for construction. Also, at the same time, because we were not able to borrow, we had to start using money from our non-toll allocation to pay the bonds that became due on the toll portfolio. Because once again, there's no resolution on the e-toll, so nobody wants to buy Sunroll bonds until there's clarity with regard to the future of e-toll. So the impact is then, as you can see here, a reduction in the available non-toll money, as money is now being transferred from our non-toll portfolio to pay back the bonds that become due on the toll side. The impact of that is, as you can see, a lot less money in terms of the green that we have available as Sunroll to put out projects. So that is really what is impacting what the people are experiencing on the ground, is the actual reduction in available budget. And I mean, as you can see here, where we should have been to where we are, we're talking about a difference of about 17 billion rand. So it is quite a substantial impact on the market. So far this year, as indicated, the toll has still not been resolved, the e-tolls by Cabinet. And secondly, we've already so far this year, they've transferred 2.53 billion from our non-toll to our toll portfolio because we are awaiting that political decision on the future of the e-tolls. Also, the COVID-19 and the lockdown regulations had an impact, obviously, on our ability to issue tenders for a period. And as the lockdown levels was reduced and more of the economy opened up. But in the process, also, a further 1.1 billion of the Sunroll non-toll budget was reallocated by Treasury to other COVID-related priorities in government. So it was a further 1.1 billion reduction. And as I said, to date, because the e-toll has not been finalized, we have not been able to secure any funding for the toll capital projects. This is the planned pipeline, as was indicated by Dumi previously in May, in terms of the approved Sunroll toll and non-toll budget. Obviously, as we've indicated previously, our priority is operational tenders. So these are our routine road maintenance, our toll operations, where we first will be putting those out and making sure we have service providers appointed, because we do need continuous operations of our way bridges, our toll plazas, our routine road maintenance. So they normally take first priority. Then periodic maintenance due to the limited regulatory approvals required and mostly using commercial sources. Strengthening, improvement, and new or more substantial capex projects. Obviously there we can only proceed with projects where, one, we've got all the approvals in place, but also if it's toll, as we've indicated here in red, these ones are subject to us securing funding to be able to roll them out. And as indicated, so far we've not been able to secure funding at this stage to be able to roll those projects out. But in total, over the 3-year MTF period, a total of 1,209 projects that will be going out to design and construction over that period. Once again, as indicated previously, all Sunroll tenders are on the e-tender portal of National Treasury. So if you go there and you search, please just make sure when you search, for one or the other reasons, there are two Sunroll names. So there's the South African National Roads Agency Sunroll, and then there is the South African National Roads Agency. So just make sure we are trying to get National Treasury to only list one name that is there. So just make sure that you search under both names, because they don't appear if it's listed under the South African, but we try to list everything under this name in terms of Sunroll, as you see over there. Also, obviously, the Sunroll website has undergone a revamp. So if you go onto our website under your service provider zone, you will see you're able to look at open tenders, closed tenders, awarded tenders in terms of the relevant details that one can see there. In terms of that process. So once again, everything that's currently out, you will find it here on our website. Just the status of where we stand. This is as of the 18th of September last week. So last week we in total had 48 tenders out being advertised. So these are all tenders, consultants, contractors. These will also be for officers or various tenders we have. There was 48 of them in total. As of the 18th last week, we had 158 tenders that are in the evaluation stage, where people are going through the compliance checks in all the various tenders. So there were 158 of those. So these tenders have closed and they're now busy going through the various compliance checks. There are 9 checks that they have to go through. Then in the adjudication stage, so these are our tenders that have completed their compliance checks, and they now being adjudicated. There were 52 of them last week that are in the various phases of adjudication. And as you can see here, in terms of tenders awarded since the 1st of April, we're now standing at 126. The previous feedback that Jumi have given you was standing at roughly 19. So you can see quite a substantial number of tenders has been adjudicated and awarded. In the process, unfortunately, 10 tenders had to be cancelled, and we have to re-tender those. And these are once again where we did not receive any compliant tenders. So all the tenders we received had one or the other problem with them, or there was a problem in our advertisement in terms of the wording that was not the same on the Government Gazette versus on one or the other website, and immediately legally that causes a challenge. But that is the overall picture as you see over there. So we are continuously going through the process. So at the moment we've got 210 tenders that are in the evaluation and adjudication stage where the awards will come through, but we are continuously issuing new tenders. And as you've seen, obviously, as a result of the COVID restrictions, numerous changes had to be introduced in the way we do things. So there's no compulsory site clarification meetings any longer. Everything is uploaded for you to download in terms of the processes. Also, the format of submissions have changed. So some of these, now that we're down to level 1, we are re-looking at some of these. But some of these will remain even at level 1 going forward in terms of the procedures. Maybe also a question that we get is, why is it taking so long to evaluate and adjudicate tenders? Obviously, what is the actual number of bids we receive per tender, but it's all related to various regulatory environments. So here it's very important, maybe just for everybody to understand the Auditor General powers and what the Auditor General sees as irregular expenditure and as material irregularity. So irregular expenditure, which the Auditor General will report on, is if you have not, if you've contravened any regulation or applicable legislation in your process of appointing someone. So as you can see, the irregularity is only compliance with legislation when incurring expenditure. So normally with irregular expenditure, there's no fraud or anything involved, but it is seen as still as irregular expenditure. So obviously as SANRAL, we need to avoid both irregular expenditure and material irregularity at all costs. A material irregularity, as you can see, is also a non-compliance or contravention of legislation, fraud, theft, or a breach of fiduciary duty identified during the audit, and where they say that result in a material financial loss, the misuse or loss of material public resource, or substantial harm to a public sector institution or the general public. The irregularity is any non-compliance as well as fraud, theft, or a breach of. So as soon as they see that there's a financial loss, according to them as Auditor General, they classify it as material irregularity. If they deem there's no financial loss, it will be irregular expenditure. And very important, at the bottom there, you'll see that the Auditor General now have the powers to issue a certificate of debt to the accounting authority or the accounting officer. So if they deem that there's material irregularity and a financial loss was suffered, they can now issue like a certificate of debt, which is like an invoice, to the individual or the board for that to be repaid by those individuals. So one needs to understand the ramifications, specifically if you deal with projects like SANRAL or any authority that has large projects where the amounts runs into the millions or billions, if you now suddenly expect an individual to repay the difference between the lowest and the second lowest tenderer, which might be 70 million rand. You can understand why people are so careful these days with the evaluation and how it goes through so many steps to ensure that none of this irregular expenditure nor material irregularity will occur. If one look at the Auditor General's report on material irregularities, so these are on audits done in 2018-19. We don't have the update for 19-20 because of the audit period's been moved out by 2 months. If you look at here what the Auditor General regarded as material irregularities, remember this is now where they are going to be issuing a certificate of debt where money needs to be collected from someone. So just to show everyone what they regard as material irregularity, if you look here at the nature of material irregularities, in terms of these 28 material irregularities that they identified as Auditor General, 11 of the 28 was overpricing of goods and services procured. So if they decide that the price that was paid for goods and services was above the market rates as they may determine at the time, that is one reason they regard it as material irregularity, because they say you should not have made an award if things were overpriced for goods and services. And I think you see a lot of that with regard to the PPEs in the news. Secondly, another reason, according to them, for material irregularity is an unfair procurement processes resulting in a supplier appointed that did not deliver. So if you appoint a service provider and he in the end is not capable of delivering, they do regard that as a material irregularity. Then, obviously, payment for goods or services not received. So if you've paid for goods and services not received, so even if you do an advance payment and you don't have an advance payment guarantee, if you do an advance payment and the services was not yet received, it is a material irregularity according to the Auditor General. You can only pay once goods has been delivered or the service rendered. Also very important here, payment for poor quality work. So once again, according to the Auditor General, if an entity proceeds and they pay for poor quality work, it will result in a material irregularity for which they can issue a certificate of debt for the money to be recovered. And then obviously also invoices or claims not paid on time. They also regard that as a material irregularity. There, the material irregularity is the interest payments that is due on those invoices if they were not paid in time. Obviously, the invoice needs to be payable, and then there shouldn't be any arguments or disputes with regard to that. So if you look at these are what is contributing to the process that takes so long to adjudicate and evaluate tenders, as one needs to avoid any of these kind of things occurring so that the Auditor General do not end up classifying things as material irregularities in terms of that. So that was just, as I said, a quick overview on where we stand. I think the more important bit was this slide, just to update to you that, as you've seen, we've progressed from 19 previously in terms of awarded tenders, where we're sitting at 126 at the moment. So that's all from my side, Nico.
Thanks, Lau. Do you want to take one or two questions, or should we, because you've still got a bit of time left?
Yeah, no, I'm happy. I will take questions if there's any questions.
Okay, maybe a hand up, and then we ask you to ask Lau a question. You know, the hand up system there at the top. Anybody?
I see a hand from Mike Penard.
Yes, Mike? Mike, you can throw your question. Maybe. And Ferdi Boshoff? Right?
Mike, your mic was muted.
Sorry, that was a mistake. Sorry about that.
You're very soft, Mike.
I'm saying I raised my hand by mistake. Sorry about that.
Okay, thanks. The wrong hand. There was somebody else too. Okay. It seems to me we're not getting the questionnaires coming through. Anybody who wants to ask Lau a question or two or make a comment, Seen, you can go. Sean. You must unmute.
Thank you. I just want to express on behalf of all SANRAL employees, thanks to Lo, on such a widely viewed platform, explain to people it is not that we haven't been putting out work. We have been working to get the contracts out. And I just wanted to say thanks to Lo for sharing that with industry.
Thanks, Sean, and thanks, Lau. Mike, you can just put your camera off. Any other questions? There was one or two which then disappeared.
Low.
Yes.
It's Rudolph here. What's the timing on those big N3 tenders on the award of that low?
The N3 tenders, I mean, most of them have gone through the process. They have, because of the value of projects, if they exceed 1 billion rand, they have to go all the way to the SANRAL board for final award. So you tend to add various additional steps to get to the board level. So a number of them has come through the process through all the subcommittees. So you've got your regional bid evaluation committee, then your regional bid adjudication committee, then your management bid adjudication committee, then your board contracts committee, which is a subcommittee of the board, and then your board. These are the structures that are required by Treasury regulations to be in place when you adjudicate tenders. I mean, things have changed a lot since 2014. So above 1 billion rand, it has to go all the way to the board. So a number of them has reached the board, and some of them have been adjudicated at the board, and some of them are, I think there's a further 5 of them that are now awaiting the contracts committee of the board, and then they will be going to the board. We do have a challenge, however, with a number of those contracts in that National Treasury refused to approve additional budget for the supervision for the consultants, because what happened was originally in 2015, when the consultants tenders were advertised, we may have estimated a construction period of 24 months for supervision, which during the detailed design changed to 30 months. So there's 6 months additional supervision required. National Treasury refused to approve that request that we've submitted in July. We have since appealed it in August, but still have had no response from them. So at the moment, they told us we cannot use the consultants that did the design to do the supervision. We need to issue new tenders for supervision in terms of the process. So we are appealing that. We appealed on the 21st of August. We still have no response a month later from National Treasury. So as it stands, I don't have consultants to supervise the work that they've designed because Treasury refused to approve the additional budget required for, say, the additional 6 months or more of supervision that's required on these various projects.
Does that answer the question, guys? Any more questions? Hello? seems to me I don't want to push questions if there is none and waste more time. Lo, I think if there's anybody that's got a problem or a question, they can also put it in writing. If they send it to me, I'll pass it on to you and my other colleagues and sponsors. But I just want to say thanks again for coming. I think you've got another meeting, and yeah, keep up the good work and yes, just be positive, and we will all win. Thanks again, Lo, and
Okay.
thank you. Thanks for your time and your good presentation. Right,
Okay.
so let's say bye-bye to Lo, and then we go on
Thanks,
to our
Nico.
next.
Bye.
Thanks, Lo. Bye. Right, so let's go on to the next presentation. I must just say at one stage, the number of people in this meeting was 269. It's unbelievable, guys. It's something, some achievement. Right, our next speaker is Barry Pierce. He's going to talk about material testing certificates. And Barry, are you awake there in the Cape? You want to click in, put your presentation on. First, put your mic on. Barry? I don't know where he is. Oh, there he is. Can you hear us, Barry?
Yes.
Sorry for waking you guys up there in the Cape, man.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you. We can't see you.
Can you hear me, Nico?
I can hear you now, but we can't see you on your presentation yet. Are you there? Are you ready, Barry? Barry, if you have a problem, then we're going to give you a gap to sort it out and we'll go on to the next speaker. How does that sound? I don't know if Harry is ready, but it seems to me Barry's got a problem. Right. Harry, are you ready? Could you take over and carry on, and then Barry could sort himself out and we'll slot him in after you?
Yes, I can certainly do that if you want me to.
Thanks, Harry. Let's just, he might have a problem, you know, these fancy things do give us problems, so he can just come in after you, Harry. Thanks, eh? And thanks for doing that. You're going to cover the launch of Manual 40, but you will explain it to us. So I'm shutting up now or going off, and you can carry on, Harry. Are you winning, Harry?
Yeah, I'm going to win. Okay, can you see that? My screen?
There we are.
Okay, I'm going to just start the slideshow.
And just enlarge it a little bit, hey? Or, yeah, there we are. Excellent. Thanks, Harry. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks a lot. This is about Sabita Manual 40. Not replacing TRH3, but one can almost say so. There was really a need to update the TRH3 2007 It's 13 years old, and a lot of things happen in between. So Sabita came to the rescue and decided they're going to sponsor that. What I can say, it's synchronized with Code 2020. The standard specifications incorporated in this document is Manual 8, the slurry, Manual 10, surfacings for low volume roads. And the emphasis is really on reducing the risks. And can I acknowledge this then for Sabita for sponsoring this, but also for all the people who actually contributed, and really good criticism, and it made the document a lot better. It was ready, but a meeting a week or two ago decided that we need a little bit extra on the PG binders. So just going to run through the contents and then highlight a couple of things. It's now divided into 8 parts: general materials, performance, seal type and binder selection, design, construction, quality assurance, and the repair of premature failures. Just highlighting then part A, definitions, the functions, the evolution of seal design in South Africa, our environment, and the different surface types. So we're talking about surface treatment here, not the asphalt side, and sprayed seal, slurry, and combination seals like the Cape seal and the slurry beyond McAdam seal. The typical thing like the graded aggregate seals, like the otter seals, are also dealt with in this document. In the definitions, we look at skid resistance, the macro texture, micro texture, road noise, typical values for different seal types, and let's say investigatory levels of when you need to do something. This is just about where things came from in South Africa. Quick view on that. The initial designs from different road authorities in South Africa, actually everybody believed they were right, and then the rational design came up, and it provided too high answers, too high application rates. So in 1998, what we did was to change the assumptions of the rational design method to move this whole envelope over so that all the road authorities should more or less get the same answers and be happy with it. Just highlighted the different type of seal types that we're looking at: grid seals, double sand seals, otter seals. On the right hand side, the graded aggregate seals, single seals, double seals with different configurations, 1.5 and 1 1/3, and so forth. And every seal type's got a place in our industry. There's just a Cape seal, slurry beyond McAdam seals. So all of them dealt with in this document. On the material side is really digging into the depth of the aggregate and specifications and what we really want, the bitumen binders and test methods. Just to highlight here that in line with the new COTO specifications, there are 3, let's say, categories of materials, and it's not specified for the different traffic volumes, but what one can say is that one can reduce certain standards when you deal with lower traffic volumes. So, and that's not thumbsuck, it came from a lot of research and from other organizations and countries over the world. So there's some reduction in the standards so that you can use materials locally available for specific purposes. On the binder side, we stick to the SANS 4001 and the TG1 document for the modified binders, but also then, and we need to move to the PG binder specifications. And we had a meeting 2 weeks ago, almost launched the Sabita Manual 40, and then it was decided that we need to bring in the PG binder project specifications. Not a completely blind specifications, let's say half blind, because you can, what we will add, and with our Step Renon's assistance, we'll add project specifications so that there's a PG binder specification, but also on top of that, for the project specifications, for a bitumen rubber, for example, you will still specify bitumen rubber with the properties of the material you want to use in this binder. Part C, performance, quite an important one. and dealing with how different factors influencing the seal performance. The pavement structure, the traffic, the geometry, design, aggregate, and so forth. And all those are quite important to understand, to select the seal type and the binder type, to do the right design, and how you actually construct for specific good performance. Just some highlights then, just to understand then the effect of moisture, just in terms of performance. Moisture just underneath the seal layer can actually change the detection pole completely. So that if you have a very soft layer just under the seal, and when it's wet, you will have a very short radius of curvature, and that will make that the seal will crack immediately. And if that base can dry out, then you have a very large radius of curvature, which will mean that that seal can last very long. And I mean, that's also in line with other documentation. But what it ties into is our specifications in terms of drying out of a base layer before we seal. And it all starts to make sense. Other highlights, we've had several investigations of seal failures, and one of the main reasons was, in fact, two coarse base textures, the G1 and G2 crushed stone materials. And as you can see here, that the base layer, the large aggregate, actually protrudes, and it's right at the on the surface, something like that, and that at the bottom is like the result of that, with moisture penetration into it and stripping of the seal. So all of a sudden, we had never really good specifications. There are now new guidelines for maximum existing textures allowed before you can actually or before you must put a texture treatment on, just to make sure that the seal perform well. Some other highlights, research work done over the past couple of years in terms of the effect of binder type and film thickness. Not going into the detail, but what this graph on the right hand says is that the bigger the stone, the more binder you will have, and this blue line, so it will take much longer before the cracks will come through if you put a bigger stone on, because of bigger, higher film thickness. And then if you use a modified binder polymer, it can have like a 30% extra life. If you use a bitumen rubber, it can have 70 to 200% extra life. Things like the effect of a binder type on the macro texture retention. This on the right hand side just shows how slowly a bitumen rubber seal will orientate, in other words, will remain or keep its texture, compared to just a normal 70-100 pen bitumen, which will orientate quickly and you lose your texture. Quite important in terms of what you want to achieve over time with a high traffic volume and maintaining a macro texture for skid resistant purposes. Effect of rejuvenators. Research work coming out and showing the effect that if you apply a rejuvenator, like our inverted cutback emulsions, or even an anionic stable grade diluted emulsion, you can actually extend the surface life for up to 4 years. And then there's a CRT as a crack retardation factor that you can use in the HTM4 modeling and performance. Another one, importance of controlled traffic compaction. After we've sealed, then those stones are not properly orientated already. So you still have some stones standing up, high up, and you need to actually orientate them. And again, research work, this is work done by Herman Mostert in Namibia, shows that even for our SR2, the bitumen rubber type of binder, after sealing, you still actually have orientation with that SR2, which is much softer than the normal SR1, but up to 10,000 vehicles. This is 8,000 vehicles before it started to stabilize. In other words, this initial area is highly sensitive to if you get cold temperatures and so on for aggregate loss, stripping. So the importance of controlled traffic compaction to stabilize that seal. just part D then, seal and binder selection. Different aspects covered in this chapter. But there are specific guidelines also for inexperienced contractors, temporary surfacing, sealing through winter, labor enhanced construction, for small airports, game parks, forestry roads, footways, and so on. And highlighting certain things like the timing when you must actually seal. So often we need to identify it quite at the early stage, so we do the work at the right time, because we still need time to program a budget and award the tenders and get onto site. And what's the implication if we don't do it in time? It can cost up to 18 times the cost. If we had sealed it at the right time, it takes a nosedive and we will end up rehabilitating as road. Also in the document, like several times, warnings. This is a situation of where a rejuvenator was sprayed with a high volatile component, and the seal on top was placed too early, so you have softening of that binder at the top, and in hot weather pickup and so on. Other highlights there, different things about the labor enhanced type of work, but also reference then to Sabita Manual 12, which is all about labor enhanced type of work. The seal selection, there's a spreadsheet available that you can download where you enter your own situation. It incorporates all those recommendations and studies that we've done for Sabita Manual 12, Manual 10. And you enter your traffic volume, your gradients, your turning actions, whether there's maintenance capability within the organization, the contractor's experience, or if you must do labor enhanced type of work, what's the macro texture, and at the end, it will give you some guidance with a lot of little extras on what you must be careful for, what can work in specific situations. Now, on that point, I wanted just to highlight, there's a huge drive worldwide for sealing of low volume roads. And on the left-hand side here is what the people perceive. We have unsealed roads, tracks and engineered gravel roads, and we have our surface roads on this side. And there's a huge gap in between. So this is where the drive is, and a major drive in developing countries, Africa, Far East, and South America as well. So looking on the right-hand side at the moment, we've got very little concrete and block pavements, about 4% asphalt in South Africa. This is about 750,000 kilometers that we're talking about. 16% surface treatments, 80% unsealed. But this situation here, the seal component, and even some of that asphalt, will move this way. So we will get a lot more seals and surface treatments in the next couple of years. There's a major drive. And what I want to highlight here is perhaps, Mr. Chairman, that one should consider for some of the next RPFs looking at low volume sealed roads and the importance of that, and where are the pitfalls and what we must do. We have many experiences and situations already in South Africa where it was done. Excellent work. And all these, I know of more than 1,000 kilometers being designed here in South Africa with a DCP. And what one can say, there are new guidelines available. You can actually go and check on the FCAP or RECAP sites. And what we can say at this stage is that just now, there's a new DCP program developed by the CSIR, and it's free. And I've just put the link in there so that you can go and download that, because I think this is going to be very important in the near future. When we get to Part E, design, we look at several different situations and particular type of seal designed for every one of these different types of seal and guidelines regarding that. And particularly where people actually make errors in interpretation of test results, like the ball penetration testing. Laboratories go out, they do the ball penetration testing, they come back and people just plug those values in. And one must be very careful of what is really happening. What are you really testing? is the stone that you're going to put on top, is it going to penetrate or not? And how do you deal with the existing macro? You actually need to take into account. There are a lot of extra guidelines available now to say, will the stone bridge, or will it actually fall in between, and how much extra binder must I spray for that? Then when we get to the designs now, it's now completely based on volumetric design. No more graphs that you have to read off, and all the principles of filling the voids are in there, making provision also now for those softer stone that you will have more wear on. So all the calculations are in the document, and there's also like tables there where you can, when you enter all this, you can just check if your little spreadsheet is then actually working well. Plus practical warnings for different situations. If the softness of the substrate, if it's too soft, then the stone will penetrate too much. And if you put too much binder in, the binder will flush up and you won't get the macro texture that you require. Adjustments and conversions, guidelines, when you should take it into account and when not, and how. And then the conversion for the modified binders, as we showed, that bitumen rubber doesn't orientate that quickly, so we need a lot more binder to hold that stone, because it's not orientating. It's not going to lie flat and where you actually have maximum area in contact with the binder. Can I say then there's still current research on the go to test different binders and evaluate their rheological properties and relate that to the sensitivity to orientation. So one nice thing about the Sabita manual, we can plug out and plug in when information becomes available, and we can update the document. Slurry design, you will see there's some general trend. There's much more information available to guide and for different purposes. And you will see there's a little bit of an increase in the binder content of the slurries for different purposes. And one of the main reasons it came back from many situations of testings and failure, where people just put too little binder in, the slurry becomes dry and brittle, ravel, or crack easily. So, and all the past research over the past 10 years, we've tried to actually incorporate all that. Construction, dealing with many different aspects, and also guidelines specifically to different types of seals. Not going to go into too much detail on that, but some highlights on that. We've spoken previously about tram lining and the equipment certification, and we've recommended that we bring in the new SUNS test for the spray fair distribution, because of certifying equipment before it goes to site, and how do we test it on site to make sure that we don't get this type of thing. Now, can I say then the testing is being completed, and thanks for, first of all, people contributing from spray pave, colas, and specifically TOSAs now, and taking it a step further, understanding then why we cannot just check one spray flare and the test that's been done and the variation in terms of the binder distribution, and eventually getting to where we now test at least 3 nozzles at a time and getting very good results. So at the moment, those is assisting us to actually provide work drawings on the on-site equipment, so that the whole test can be finalized. A little bit more, and in the previous documents we had different aggregate spread rates, tables and graphs. We've converted that to one, plus how you should actually go and check it on site in terms of packing it out, measuring it, calibrating your tip spreader, what it must look like after you've chipped it, after you've rolled it. And this bottom figure here, or the photograph, the left-hand one, actually shows after you've rolled it, even 8 pneumatic tire roller passes, must still look open. Otherwise, it cannot orientate after traffic compaction to get into like a very stable matrix and non-sensitive to aggregate loss. A bit more on the Cape seals specifically on how you should spread it. What are the errors that we get, like too tight chipping, slurry doesn't go in, makes voids, you actually get water in there, and the seal comes off. Other problems with specifically with the final layer of slurry being too coarse, and you end up with some problems and even bad looking Cape seals. I have many things like putting wet sand in and wet emulsion, and you get corrugations effects like that. A lot of different things to just highlight to make sure that you get it right. On the quality assurance side, different aspects, how to deal with different forms of contact, the whole quality assurance process, what's the effect of the existing surface or new base, the quality of the construction plant, quality of materials, and then the construction itself. And there are many, let me say, it's completely in line with the new COTO document specification. A lot of different processes that you can go through to guide you when to make a decision, when to reject, when to conditionally accept, and so on, just to make sure that you get it right. For example, if this is now a double seal without a cover spray specified, if you have underspray, to a certain extent, you can still add a little bit more on your cover spray, but only up to a certain point. But those are guidelines in there. There's also, when we look at repair of premature failures, dealing with the most common types and recommended repair methods, and then specific attention to the aggregate loss and bleeding. Just put this little table in. You know, we don't have really good specifications up to this point in terms of when I seal, what must be the texture depth for a certain type of seal. So there's some guidelines in terms of what you would aim for when you look at different seal types that we commonly use. And then some good experiences with different methods of dealing with something like aggregate loss. There's just an example of using a pre-coated 5mm or grit seal, and then with a fair bit of experimentation, some then guidelines in terms of different traffic volumes and different cool weather or hot weather, how much you must actually spray when you use something like the pre-coated grit aggregate to repair those stripped areas. On the bleeding side, there's also different methods of dealing with that, and the one that's really recommended is the hydro cutter, and what it looked like before and after, and what type of texture would you like at the end of the day. So in summary, it gives us the current best practice, and this is a dynamic world, and we get new binders, we get new additives, there's a big thing going on adhesion agents at the moment, and how it can impact immediately, help you, but we're not necessarily sure about the consequences later on. Different types of adhesive agents, and you think about the nano products coming in and the properties of that, things are going to change. And the nice thing again then for Sabita manual is that it can allow regular updates. And as a moment as something comes up with better information, we plug out and we plug in. And then just a last word, the first SAF course on Manual 40 is going to be in a couple of weeks' time, 7th to 9th October, also a virtual course. Thanks.
Harry?
Yes.
For your presentation, well done. And to your sponsors, you've really, you've got a beautiful presentation and you're really doing good work, you and your sponsors. I'm very impressed, and thanks for your work that you're doing. You guys are just champs out there. Thanks, Harry.
Okay.
Again, Sorry.
Any questions? Or you can wait till and attend the course in a couple of weeks' time.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks. Yeah, wouldn't understand half of what's going on, but anyway, that might be good to go on it. Thanks, Gary. Is there anybody that's got a burning question who wants to throw it at Gary? You may speak. Jan?
Yeah, there's from someone I do and one other.
Yeah. Okay, Jan, go. Okay. Soma, you go then. Know your question?
Tim, I just want to find out how much of thought is given to the design
now
of.
We've got both on. Can we just go back to Jan? Jan, you kick off. You were first.
Okay, thanks, Gary. TRH4 doesn't allow for adjustment factors for modified emulsions in table 7.6. Have you included modified emulsion adjustment factors in manual 40?
Yes, and interesting why we did that. Initially, we said we don't need any adjustment factors for emulsion because it's so low viscosity. Then when we put the stone on, we roll it flat. But the reality is, and particularly in the Cape area, often you get into March and you have like 10 or 12 degrees Celsius and you're allowed to spray the emulsion. And now you can put a light steel wheel roller on, but you can't put your pneumatics on because when it turns, it sticks to the tires. So now what do? Now we wait until the binder starts to break. And let's say we talk about a SCE1, a polymer modified emulsion. Now we wait for it to start to break. Now it breaks, and now we put the pneumatics on. And the interesting part is now, because we can use emulsion, we use emulsion. But at that temperature of 12, 14, 15 degrees Celsius, when the water is evaporated, we're close to a SE1. So all of a sudden, that is now a stiff binder. It's not emulsion anymore. So we can't orientate that stone properly within pneumatic tired rollers. And that was actually the cause of several projects with stripping, because we on March, about 2 years ago, we had not one day in March almost where the road surface temperature went over 20 degrees Celsius. So, okay, that means that there's still a problem that the stone doesn't orientate as quickly as it should orientate. And for that reason, we actually make provision now for almost half of the orientation effect or sensitivity when we use the polymer modified emulsions. Okay, so there's provision for that. Does that answer your question?
Gary, yes, thanks a lot. I'm glad to hear that.
Okay.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Jan. Jan, you can just take your hand down now, and then we're going to Soma.
Yeah, good day, team. I just want to find out what thought was given into road markings that have to be applied on top of, especially on seals, regarding the bleeding and also very rough textures. Thank you.
Sorry, Soma, are you referring to a type of road marking or the effect of road marking on skid resistance? I'm not sure. Because we don't deal with road markings or the selection of road markings per se. Interesting question. You start to use different road markings and water-based versus oil-based road markings, and when you put it on, it can have an effect on the life of, or the initial life of such a road marking. What exactly would you like to see in a document like this in terms of road markings?
I'm not sure exactly what should really be in a document. I just wanted to know if there was thought given into consideration regarding the seals in terms of like bleeding, where your bitumen comes through the markings and then it discolors it, or a contractor is required to apply thicker markings on rougher surfaces just for the markings to stand out proud on top of the top of the stones. So it's becoming a bit of a challenge on some of the seals because usually you have a different contractor to the one that's surfacing, and then the road marking contractor is basically the one that's left with the responsibilities of ensuring that the markings are done to the standards. But we find that with the seals, if a bit too much of bitumen is applied, then you get bleeding, or if the surfacing texture is not correct, then obviously the markings are going into the valleys and then it's not standing proud.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting point. The only thing that we deal with is, for certain seal types, specifically, if you use a graded aggregate seal or a sand seal, it takes time. You use a softer binder, and it takes time before the binder migrates through particularly the aggregate. So you cannot put your line markings on very quickly. So you have to wait some time. That's maybe, and there you will find some guidelines. For example, when we use grit seals, which is a minus now 5 millimeters aggregate down to 0.075 or of 1 or 2%. Then if we pre-coat that grit, you don't have any dust, you don't have any brooming back, and you can put your line markings on in a week's time. So some guidelines on that, but I hear you, and I've been certainly in the same situations where you need, before the end of the contract, you need to put your line markings back on again, depending on what type of paint you've used and how coarse the surface texture is. So good points. I'm not sure we can just take note of that and see if we can add something on top of that. Thanks.
Thanks, Harry. I think we're starting to run out of time. So thanks for your presentation. And I think if there's any questions that people want to take on further, can address it to me, and I'll pass it on to Harry, and we can share the answers. Harry, thanks a lot. Right. Our next speaker is Barry Pierce. He had a problem with connecting. He's phoned and said that he's now ready. So Barry, are you on and are you ready? And you can go for it. Thanks.
Super. Good morning, everybody. My apologies for the connectivity issues we had a bit earlier, but I suppose that's the age that we are actually working in at the moment. Just to clarify, the presentation up, can everybody see that? Nico, can you just confirm? And the speaker, is it up and running?
It's clear and it's beautiful. Thanks.
Excellent. Super. Right, I'm going to give a short presentation on where we stand at the moment with the certification of the laboratory testers under ISO 17024 in form of deeming competent your personnel within the laboratory. Presentation is going to have a look a little bit at the background as to where we've come from. We'll have a look at the effects of COVID and what we've managed to do in the period of having a lockdown, and then where we're actually going to, and the timeline going forward. From the history's perspective, we started off with the QCTO, the Quality Council for Trades and Occupations, and Sabita came forward as the DQP, the Development Quality Partner, and the National Laboratory Association of South Africa, NLA, was put forward as the AQP, which is the Assessment Quality Partner in finalizing and approving everybody who had been through the particular course itself. If I can maybe just put it politely and as nicely as I can, it was an extremely slow, very challenging, extremely bureaucratic in its process, and in general it was just an incredibly frustrating process. Things happened slowly. When they did finally get to a point where something was happening, they would change the procedures or the goalposts or whatever the case was, and the delay of in excess of 3 years of getting the qualification finally to SAQA and finally approved, we had got to a point within industry where we'd said, listen, this process is not actually working for us. And we started looking at making changes before they'd actually accredited or registered the qualification through SAQA. It was finally approved in 2018, and in actual fact, the only reason why it was approved was because they had a particular target that they had to achieve, and I won't say they pulled qualifications out of the hat to see who would get on that list, but basically ours sort of fell out of the hat and landed on the table, and they said, well, let's do this because it gives us our X number of qualifications that have now been approved. I must admit, my particular opinion is that should that target not have been in place, I doubt whether the qualification would have actually been approved at this particular point, even at this late stage. At that point, or in actual prior to that point, we'd already started having consultations with concerns around the applicability of the qualification for laboratory testers through the QCTO. The NLA had proposed that we move towards a process of deeming competent through an international standard, which is ISO 17024. We also agreed that it was possibly a bit of an overkill in doing the qualification with the extent of theoretical knowledge that we were trying to plug into the qualification as well. The time that was also going to be spent in these modules the theory modules would have taken the delegates that are already, or the candidates who are already in the laboratories and working out of the working environment, and that was perceived in some of the discussions with some of the laboratories as being too much time away from the workplace itself. And so the decision was to actually drop the qualification and to move away to the certification of personnel. The NLA proposed this, and we had a meeting with industry partners that included all the members from Mat Civils under the NLA subcommittee, as well as Sanral, TCI, and Esparza. And the idea is now we're moving away from the QCTO and putting it in the hands of industry to be run by industry for industry through the NLA SA. It's an independent, unbiased, broad-based laboratory organization, and I think it's maybe one of the better organizations that can actually run this. It's the same organization that is running the National Proficiency Testing Scheme, and I think that has actually been quite beneficial. If I can maybe just hook onto what Gerrie said at the end of his presentation as well, the beauty of having these types of documents that lie within, or these types of procedures that lie within the auspices of, or the control of industry, is to implement a change is very quick and efficient. Whereas if you go through the processes that are in place with the more bureaucratic type structures, it can take forever to get a change in place, which can be incredibly frustrating. The NLA already runs a certification process for their metrologists. Those are the guys who are involved in studying and practices of the science of measurement, which is what the laboratories are involved in. And we're also looking at implementing through the NLA stack emission testers accreditation process or certification process as well. So the NLA will become certified as a certification body for laboratory testers, both stack emission and metrologists, and for the civils environment. So it'll be a single process with obviously the specifics for those three being separated. Moving on to 17024, just a broad outline of what it actually is. It's a conformity assessment. And the idea would be that it's the general requirements for bodies operating certification of persons. That body would be the NLA. And it's the framework of that organization accredited to provide certification for personnel. That's the certification of personnel that they are competent to produce a certain set of results from a particular test method or a range of test methods. It's very similar to what the laboratories have got to put together under 17025. So they are registered, there are specific criteria that you need to conform to ensure that there's no bias, that the minimum requirements are actually achieved, etc., etc. It's international standard that has been developed with the objective of achieving and promoting a globally accepted benchmark for organizations that are operating certification of personnel. And there are other very practical functions that are done under this type of certification. Typically, it would be things like roller operators. It would be the guys who are operating the cranes on construction sites, that type of stuff. And my feeling is the civils laboratory tester who works at the bench itself is ideally suited for this type of certification. Certification of persons is one means of providing assurance that the certified person meets the requirements of the certification scheme, and those are the absolute minimum requirements. And there's also confidence in the respective certification schemes of persons achieved by means of a globally accepted process of assessment and periodic reassessment of the competency of that particular person. If we have a look now at where we are with the COVID scenario and what it did for us, obviously there's a lot of negative sentiment around what happened around COVID with the closing down of industry, but from a positive perspective, it actually took us out of the industry environment and allowed us quite a bit of time to actually dedicate to putting together all the processes and logistics that are required in the 17024 requirement. As I said, it's basically the same as putting up a 17025 scenario, and you've got to jump through all those hoops and get everything in place to make sure that they're happy that your process is credit worthy. Basically, setting up the process within the NLA to register as a SANAS accredited certification body and the deeming competent of the civils laboratory testers. Similar process, as I said, is in place from the metrologist. That is already up and running, although it's not certified as yet. And a similar thing is going to be in place for the stack emission testers as well. It's all under one roof, as I said. It'll be done by the NLA, so the process will be considered unbiased and independent. So it's not done by an organization that has got a vested interest in a particular organization or organizations within the industry. They want to ensure that the folk who are testing for within a MAT civil subcommittee environment are all competent to conduct the tests initially at a basic level, and that is obviously to international standards. It'll be the South African standards for testing, but it'll be the framework is the international standard that we're referring to. There's obviously less time away from the laboratory then, which is actually ideal for the productive environment that the laboratory guys work in. And the training will occur largely in-house and on the job, although there will be interventions to ensure that it's managed and controlled. It will be assessed independently after a fixed minimum standard to a fixed minimum standard as laid out in the NLA's framework documentation. From our perspective, where we are and what is the process going forward, obviously we need to get those logistics in place. Pretty much all of those are now where we need them to be, besides the last couple of I's that need dotting and the T's that need crossing. You will be doing a registration per material type. So we're starting off with aggregates because it's the base material for pretty much everything that we work in. That would be the aggregates for asphalt and concrete, and then obviously the coarser fraction that lies within the granular layers as well. Initially, we're going to be doing it as a hard copy type scenario to ensure that once we reshape it so that it's in its final format, we will shift that over to an electronic process, and it'll be quick and easy to actually do that particular registration then online with the NLA. There will be a theory assessment that we will run initially just to check that the candidates are ready for the witnessing process, because it'll be a very practical hands-on type witnessing process that we're looking at there. So there'll be a theory component to make sure that the individuals are ready for what they need to be looking at. And if they pass that, we will then say, right, you're in the process, and we'll move them on to the witnessing scenario. The witnessing of the competency will be done through the NLA as at the independent body. It'll be an on-site observation of the basic methods per material type by an independent evaluator that's been approved by the NLA. Once that evaluation or the witnessing has taken place, there will be a moderation process within the NLA, obviously covering the theory, which has already been approved, and then the witnessing scenario. If successful, if unsuccessful, the person will need to re-register and rerun that particular procedure. And there's also an option for an appeals process that is covered within the documentation framework. The certification is then going to be approved and the certificate issued, and it is valid for a 5-year period, similar to what we have with the EXA registration. After the 5-year period, we will look at reassessment, which I'll cover shortly, but all those that have then been certified and those that are in the process of being certified will be accommodated on a database where folk will have access to see who's been registered for what particular process. Reassessment, as I said, will be done after a 5-year period. It will require that the candidate is still actively working within the industry. There will be various applicable CPD type activities that they would need to have accomplished during the 5-year period. And there will possibly be some form of online theory assessment as well that will need to be undertaken to account for any changes in the test methods, that we ensure that the candidate that is continuing for another 5-year period has actually integrated any revisions to the methods that have taken place and is still up to date with the latest test method requirements. We're looking at running a trial session as well to check the processes. There are SANS 3001 videos that we are currently busy in the process of developing as an in-house training aid, so that it will replace the current Sabita videos that exist at this particular point. And we would be looking at running that in combination with Sabita to house that more in an in-house type environment where the candidates will have access to those videos online to actually check their procedure and make sure that they're actually heading in the right direction. The timeline going forward, yes, we're going to run a dummy run or a test run of the actual procedure. The entire procedure will involve registering as if you're going to undertake a Sabita course. This will be for the aggregates module. There will be various online interventions as against what we currently do with a face-to-face training environment. There will be an introduction to the course that will be run online for about 1 to 2 hours, depending on which material type it is. Give an introduction to the course, what is expected of the candidate, and the basic intro that I would do with regards to a normal 3 or 4 or 5 day Sabita material testers course. The videos will then be available to those delegates in-house at the particular facilities, or in this particular environment, what you can have is you can have people from various facilities online at different times or at the same time watching the video, because the video will be available on a paid for basis, a subscription fee of sorts, which we will cover it at a later stage. Practicing methods then obviously will be done in-house. There will be some form of supervision or mentorship that will take place within the laboratory. Pretty much what is happening from a training perspective and a practicing perspective online at the moment. In-house as it is undertaken at the moment, but obviously with certain controls and checks in place. The on-site check of competence will then be done as part of the Sabita training to ensure readiness for certification. What we don't want to have happen is for a delegate to register for certification, go through the process and find not to be deemed competent at the end of the process because of the costings involved in that. We would far rather wait for the delegate to actually have got to a point where they feel confident, where the laboratory management feels confident with the individual, and as the training providers through Sabita, they are confident that the individual is actually competent, and then send them forward for the registration. They will then register through the NLA for the 17024 certification. The theory assessment will take place approximately 2 weeks before the planned witnessing. If the person passes, they will go ahead into the planned witnessing scheme. If they fail, they can retake that theory module within a period of 1 month at no additional fee. And if they fail it again, back into the process and actually retake it within a period of at least 3 months. The witnessing per material type will take place over 1 day, so it's 1 day per material type. What we are looking at doing is we will get an assessor together. They will be able to evaluate between 3 to 5 delegates depending on how complex the test methods are that we are having a look at. And we would run those consecutively for a period of 3 to 4 days. So one assessor would come in, they would check 3 to 5 delegates per day, maybe 2 to 3 days in a row. So it will be a continuous process of a particular material type. We're not going to bring one person in and do aggregates on day 1 and granular on day 2 and bitumen on day 3 with that same delegate, because at the end of the day, I think the assessor will be exhausted and that person will be actually exhausted as well. So we will do the person for one particular material type in a particular week, and then if they want to do the granular material, they would need to apply for that at a later stage, give themselves a break, go in and practice that particular material, and then come out and register for that particular material itself. It will be basic materials methods initially only, and we will look at expanding that into more complex ones later on as we roll out all the basic methods and then start looking at the more complex ones. The planning is that we will run this into the end of October, beginning of November. So during the month of October, the guys will be doing the initial training in-house with the AG methods based on the videos that are available and the interventions from Sabita's online training revisions. And then into November, we would look at doing the actual registration for the NLA's certification process, run the theory online, and actually run the witnessing as well, and then have that in line before the end of this year. Going forward, obviously, once you've done the trial run or the test run, we need to evaluate what works and what doesn't work from a practical perspective and do any revisions to the framework that we have in place, both from the training side and for the certification process. We will obviously then open registration for industry for the aggregates methods, latest into early 2021, but we're hoping to have that open for registration into the end of 2020. We will then look at scheduling the witnessing of those candidates region for region and venue for venue. The venues that we are looking at identifying, or the venues that we have identified, are the non-commercial environments, such as the provincial laboratories within the various provinces, that have those facilities available so that we don't actually disrupt production in the commercial facilities. Obviously, with the laboratory coming up, there's a presentation later on with Wynand Steyn with regards to the facility in Pretoria, and that would obviously be one of the areas where this type of evaluation will be taking place. We would look at running 3 to 4 witnessings in the week per venue, per assessor or per evaluator. They will look at 3 to 5 delegates or candidates per day, and that will give you between 9 and 20 people being accredited or evaluated per week. Obviously with time for preparation of the initial samples and then that process running through for the 3 to 5 days from Tuesday through to Friday. We'll obviously look at expanding these processes from the basic test methods, starting with aggregates. We'll then very possibly move to concrete, because that is one of the more regular tests that are undertaken in the commercial facilities. We'll move then on to the granular, which would then possibly be the third most regular one, and then the more complex ones of asphalt and bitumen coming in at the end. The process will possibly take us the best part of 2021 to get in place, maybe even stretching into 2022 on the bitumen side of things, but that will be phased in depending on how quickly we get our system up and running and how much of a demand there is from industry to get this process up and running. So from my side, watch this space. Register your guys who need to go in for the process, get them certified and deemed competent, and we will get a competent registered bunch of laboratory testers certified as of the beginning of 2021 going into the future. Nico, from my side, that's we are at the moment as a bird's eye view of the process that's required.
Thanks, Barry. There's one question from Eric. Maybe he should throw us the question and then you can answer it so we don't have too much time. Eric, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Barry, that looks very promising. Just a concern, though, it's not really to do with the testing itself. It's more our processes. Having the NLA as the sole provider, that's from our SCM processes, that's seen as uncompetitive, and they really don't like it. And it's a bit of a struggle so that's one issue. But also related to that, what is the possibility of some other organization coming forward and offering this competency training as well? Now, if I look at it, I know eThekwini has trained a lot of staff along trade lines, and none of these staff have actually worked physically in that trade, and yet they've all got trade certificates. It just horrifies me that we may end up with some service provider, I'm not saying NLA, but somebody else possibly, who may latch onto this process and offer testing and people coming out with competency certificates have never even set foot in a laboratory. Just those concerns, really. I don't know if you want to comment on either of those.
Yes, thanks, Eric. I'm aware of the issues that some of the government departments have with regards to sole providers of services. The issue is obviously what this will ensure is that because of who the NLA is, it is independent, and the level of the quality of the individuals coming out, or the competencies of the individuals, is then actually to a large degree guaranteed. There is nothing to stop another organization obviously opening up and doing that, as long as they become a certified 17024 provider. That is for me the minimum requirement. Obviously the cost of going that route can be quite expensive, and then within that process you would guarantee the conformity or the competence of the particular individual. So it is something that we, as the NLA, have looked at and agreed that it could well be that somebody does want to come forward and provide that, but unless they go the route of 17024, they will not have the international certification process itself. I'm not quite sure how eThekwini is going to get around that in that regard. But my concern is obviously at the end of the day, unless we've got some minimum standard that is in place for the approval of those individuals who are working in the laboratory, we are going to continuously be sitting with issues around some of the test results that are coming out. And this is just one of the ways of getting around it. If it had been a SAQA course and it had gone through the QCTO, in essence, it's the same thing. It's coming from a single body. The qualification is through QCTO. So I don't quite know how eThekwini would have got around that process either.
Barry, if I can just add, Eric, it's Said here. It is important that whoever undertakes to do the assessment must be SANAS accredited. And herein lies the answer that you're looking for. It's SANAS accreditation. And NLA is going this route, and whoever wants to do assessments will have to go that route. You as a client body will have to make a choice. Do you need these kind of certification or this level of certification in your organization or not? Because then anybody can train. But if there's a certification requirement, then ideally this is the route to follow. And anybody can do the certification if, as I said before, if they are SANAS accredited, and that's open to anybody.
Yeah, quite correct.
Thanks. Sean had his hand up. I see he's pulled it down. But Sean, do you want to say something or ask a question?
Just thanks. Basically, just affirming what Said had now explained. We will be as from our side as the Kota MTC be looking at driving it into our requirements that the person must be certified by a SANAS accredited certification body. to the standard 17024 standard. So your in-house people, again, Eric, it comes back to basically the same as the requirement for your engineer to be registered with EXA. There's nobody else that you can register with as a professional engineer. Yes, EXA is a statutory body, and this is not going to be a statutory body, but if we make it a contractual requirement for the person to be certified by an accredited certification body, then it is not a sole proprietor, it is a recognized body that you need to be certified by or belong to. Thanks, Nico.
Thanks, guys. Thanks to Barry. Thanks to Said. I think that's well covered. Very good presentation. Nice slides. Nice participation. Thanks, Barry.
Cool. Thanks very much.
Okay.
Thanks for the questions.
Again, if there's questions, send them to me and we'll pass them on. Our next speaker is crucial for us in business, and he's Kobus van der Walt, and he's going to talk about KOTO documents, and which is very, very important. Kobus, hope you're ready. Welcome. I hope you're well.
Thank you, Nico. I'll just see if I can get the slides on. Can you see it or not?
Not yet, Kobus.
Can you see it or not?
Not yet, Kobus. There we are, Kobus. Your email is on. The email that was sent to you is on, but the presentation is still not showing.
Anything else?
Nothing yet. Sound. There we are.
Is it on now?
Yes, it's on. You might just want to increase the main slide size. With the slides on the sideline.
Can you see it now?
Excellent. Thank you very, very much.
Okay, Nico, thank you very much, and good morning to everybody. It's nice to have a big audience and a lot of people. Although I cannot see you, I can feel the pressure on myself for everybody listening. I'm going to give you some feedback on the KOTO standard specifications for roads and bridge work for South African road authorities. Now, previously, or when we started off with this project, I sort of, it let me think about a pigeon race. And I mentioned that it's like a pigeon race. When you start off, you circle around and without any direction. And for about a year, when we started off with this project, we were circling and circling and we could not get direction. And then suddenly we got direction. And we managed to make a lot of changes to the old, or totally moved away from the old document and come up with something new. And in November 2019, when we submitted our committee final draft to Colto, I at that stage, I felt that we have reached our destination. But I was also worried because you always have got these guys with shotguns that can shoot you down before you reach your destination. And then I must say, in August this year, in 2020, we received a happy letter, as I call it, from Colto about this document. And the main thing now is for us is to really to get all the pigeons together and start using the new Colto document. So my first slide is just a little bit on the forward that's in the documents, and basically this is the new Colto standard specification that was approved by Colto on the 18th of August 2020 as a draft standard. And this document now is replacing the old Colto standard specifications for roads and bridge work for state road authorities, the 1998 edition. So it is replacing it. The other important thing with this letter that we received, we realized we need to have a phased out approach from Colto to Colto. And the decision was then because there were a lot of documents already, existing contracts, and there were projects that are busy in the design phase, and one didn't want to disturb that. But the main thing is also we would like to start using the Colto document. So we agreed on a 6-month phase out approach, where the Colto standard specifications, this is now the 2020 edition, will be mandatory for use in procurement documents advertised as from the 1st of March 2021. Now, that is on a short notice perhaps, but it's important because the draft standard will be implemented for only a period of 2 years in terms of Colto's requirements, and then thereafter the people can still, during this period, the people can submit comments that will be included into the document before it becomes in a final document. It's also important to note that the draft standard have full legal standing. So our main thing on the 6 months, there are people feeling it is too short, but it's important that we start using the document, and so that we can update or improve it as we continue. The little bit background on this document is that the upgrading work was carried out under the auspices of the Road Materials Committee, which is a subcommittee from the road coordinating body, which falls under Colto. The working groups for each of the chapters were formalized in the early 2014 already, and which consisted of a coordinator with the following members. Now you can see here the RM's Road Materials Committee, the provinces, SAFSEC, ASPASA, NICU. Just to take note that ASPASA was also invited and you accepted the invitation. And then the municipalities and metros, consultants that assisted us, SANRAL and the DOT. So there were a group of people looking at this document, giving inputs, and that helped a lot to update or develop a new document. The important thing is that to note that is that this document is for the use of all authorities. In the past, it was the old Colto was for state road authorities, and the whole idea with the new document was that SANRAL, the provinces, the municipalities, the metros, and others. And here, others can be the concession contracts as well. Everybody in South Africa must start using this document so that it will be easier for industry to know that everybody is working on the same standard specifications when they go out on tender. Now, the document is available electronically, free of charge. You don't have to pay for it. You can just offload it. We've already uploaded it on the SANRAL website. And the Department of Transport is also going to upload it on their website. We've provided them with the information. So it will be there free of charge, and it can be then used. by industry. This is just a slide on that reflects where the standard specifications fit into the COLTO suite of documents. This is the document consists of 20 chapters. You will see chapter 1 to 20, but it's important to note that chapters 15 and to 19 is reserved for future use. And so there's a lot of things during perhaps the next 2 years that can happen that we can perhaps put something in there. And here I think of the issue of the BIMs that's now in the a lot talk about in the industry, the building information modeling as it's known, and perhaps the BIMS construction model and standards can fit into perhaps 1 or 2 of these chapters. I think that's the future, and we'll have to perhaps make provision for that in our future documents. Then on the chapters, all the chapters that I've shown you, I've got specific sections. There's always a part A, which is about the specifications. You've got a part B that deals with the labor enhancement, part C with measurement and payment, and then part D over the guarantees and compliance certificates for each of the sections in this document. Now, part B, the labor enhancing, the definition of labor enhanced means to improve the scope for labor. That was the whole idea, that with this document that we need to create job opportunities and where we can to enhance the labor component of certain projects. Although a lot of work already being done in the document that is labor, that has got a lot of labor involved with, the idea was that one need to see if one can still improve the scope of the labor component on our projects. But one thing that I must tell you is that you cannot, at the end of the project, then think about the labor component. You must do that during the design phase already of your project when you want to increase the labor component. The specifications in Part A will apply for all work carried out by using labor-enhanced construction method unless some of the specifications in Part A are replaced with the revised specifications in Part B. It's important to note that. Then, on the measurement and payment, what I've already done, we've already contacted the software developers of BIL. So we have provided them with the information of the measurement and payment items in the COTO document, and they are busy updating their the BIL, the new COTO documents in the programs. And I think the contractors and the consultants will be happy to know that it will be hopefully available within the next 2 weeks already from the software developers that are busy. This is just a screenshot of what of a traffic accommodation, and you can exactly see there. It deals with the base patching using crushed stone material stabilized with bitumen, and this is just a screenshot of how it's going to look in your the master copy of the BIL project that you will hopefully get access to from the suppliers of the BIL program. The next aspect here is where to get where is the SANRAL the squares, how can you get access to the document? Now, SANRAL mentioned earlier this morning that we've updated our website a little bit. So the draft standard chapters are available on the SANRAL website, www.nra.co.za, and can be assessed as follows. Through service, look at the service provider, and then you go to manuals, policies, and technical specifications, and then to the COLTO standard specifications, and you will get it there. This is just also the next step will be then to download the draft standards. And this you will see on the left-hand side, the download, you will see all the chapters 1 to 20. And then at the bottom, there's also a COLTO standard spec chapter comments that I will discuss a little bit later with you as well. The next step will be to provide your information on the document on the website, and then you can then download choose a destination where the documents must be saved. What is nice about this the way that we've put it here is that in the past, for every chapter you have, if you need to sort of complete this information, but now if you complete it once, you can download any of the chapters or all the chapters at the same time. So just be that is also to make it easier for everybody's use. Then on the comment side of the Colto chapters now, we have tried the utmost best when we prepared the Colto document to make sure that we have addressed all the issues and we worked in the comments, but it is very difficult. I can tell you that we are sitting here with approximately, I think it's 1,260 or 1,300 pages of specifications, and to make sure that you've covered, especially where you are referencing, there is definitely going to be problems or things that is not clear. So what we are asking you is, especially if you are utilizing the document and you find aspects that are not clear or need corrections or references that between the chapters that is not correct, that please inform us, and you can inform us through this Excel spreadsheet format provided in the draft standard document, and emailed it to the koto@nra.co.za. You'll see now this is the comments on the chapters. There's a nice spreadsheet here, and you can just complete it for us, and then you can send it to your comments to the Koto revision of nra.co.za, and Thea du Plessis is managing this, and all this will be kept for the update of the document in 2 years' time. Then the other thing, because of the size of the document, we also thought that as part of when you download the document, that if you use a bookmark function, that will help you a lot to get fast access to specific sections or part of the sections, and you can basically do that by just click on the view, the show height, navigation, and then if you click on the bookmark to the items, you will see the content of that chapter or immediately come up. So it is a very nice thing that I would like you to recommend you to use this navigation that is there. If it's as a PDF or the PDF document on the website, that you can immediately go to the information that you need by navigating using the navigating system. Then from my side, I would like to have a big thank for all of you that contribute to the document. I didn't want to put names here because there was a lot of people that took part in the document, people that provided comments, and so I would like to thank you, all of you. It wasn't for your contribution, we wouldn't have been able to put this document together. Now the next step is to update all the pro forma procurement documents to be in line with the new Colto standard specifications, and this is also a mammoth task, and I know that on Sandral's side we are busy with, and Corneille, he's busy with a team putting together to address now our pro forma documents. We've already started looking at especially in the Colto, there is a lot of places where we refer to contract as per the contract documentation or as per project specifications, and all this stuff need to be put together and sort of put into the pro forma document so that and that you don't miss things, and that we still provide that information. But hopefully with the Colto, the pro forma and the procurement documents will be much thinner than in the past for all the information that it contained. Then lastly, one cannot get enough training, and here I've spoken to the staff, and I must thank them for really their efforts in assisting us with getting training to the people out there that are using the document. The important thing is that SAF have decided that they are still going to continue with the workshops and having workshops to the industry. I'm aware of on chapters 4 and 5. There's going to be a workshop on the 5th and 6th of November, but please have a look at when they sent out the emails on the Colto chapters, the workshops that they'll have to make the information available and to discuss stuff. So from my side, thank you for their contribution as well. The other thing also is I feel that the best way of training is also to start reading the document and using the document. So from my side, thank you very much for the opportunity to present this to you. Thank you, Nico, and back to you.
Thanks, Kobus. Thanks for your excellent presentation. Great. And for your hard work, you've really been pushing this Koto process. Thanks a lot for that. What I want to ask you, would it be possible or would it be allowed from you that we document on our website, or is it just for certain websites? Because it would be a good thing to market this document, which is quite important in industry.
Nico, I would just like to find out from the RCB that if they haven't got anything against it, because it's really a document at the end of the day. So it will be hopefully if it can also be put on it will make it more easily available. But it is available on our website as well, hopefully on the DOT's one. But I'll come back to you on that question, Nico.
Thank you very much, Kobus. I see there's a question from somebody.
Hello everyone. My name is Tisele. I would like to find out if the software will be available freely together with the document. Thank you, Nico.
No, there's no software available, but the bill, perhaps if you refer to the measurement and payment items, that's on the software. The only software there is the program for bill. But that's not that you must talk with the software developers. I don't know if they're going to how much they charge to have that software, but that is the only software. The other stuff is available on the website, and you can download the documents.
Thank you very much.
Somebody who's called operations also wants to ask a question, Kobus.
Sorry, it's Basil Johnson here.
Hello, Basil.
Just to confirm, unfortunately, we had a meeting with Leslie Johnson yesterday from DOT, and she says DOT have not uploaded the document on their website yet, but obviously they will do that. So I think it's only available on the SANRAL website now.
Thanks, Basil. Kobus?
Yeah, we have provided them with the information a while ago already, and our stuff is on. So it depends on. Hopefully, they will be all coming back to work now with the phase 2, and then they will load it up.
Right. If there's no more questions, Basil, maybe you can just drop your hand, unless you want to ask a further question. Kobus, again, thanks a lot for the excellent presentation. And thanks for all the hard work in this whole process. We really appreciate it. And yes, it's so crucial that we've got it. And go well further. And yes, guys, stay safe. Right. Now we're going to go to our last presenter, who's Wynand Steyn. Wynand, are you ready? Are you there?
Hi, Nico. I am ready. I'm just starting up over here. Just pause that and share my screen with you. Let me just, there we are. Can I start when I'm ready?
Yes, your presentation is not on yet, but it's coming, I think. There we are.
Just give it a moment.
There we are. It's loading, I think. Thanks, Wynand. It's got a white page, but maybe it's just loading. There we are, Wynand. Thanks a lot. It's dead quiet, Wynand.
I'm trying to see what's the problem over here.
Oh, sorry. I thought we had a cut or something.
Nico,
Yes?
can you see it over there? Because it's showing on my second screen over here.
It's showing 3 pictures, one with a ready mix and then a flat piece and another flat piece, but that's what we're seeing. So I'm not too sure what your presentation looks like. Maybe it's
running. So,
yes, there we are. There we are. Wynand, are you talking or are you just still battling to get it loaded? You did check it this morning.
It's the video that's playing, Nico, but I think your bandwidth might be a bit slow for it.
Yeah, because we've got 252 people on your.
Yeah. Nico, it appears to me as if there's a bit of a bandwidth issue to play it to everybody together on this currently. I paused it right now. Nico, can you hear me? Nico?
Oh, we
Hello,
can hear you,
Wynand.
Wynand.
I can
Sorry.
hear you.
Yes,
Hi,
I can see
Nico.
you and I can hear you.
Yeah, no, I want to say I think there's a bandwidth issue because it plays inside over here well with the sound, but I'm going to let it run through. It's another 5 minutes or so, then at least the video part can run. The talking is not too much of an issue.
Thank you, Wynand.
Wynand, it's Basil. Yeah, if you go to the 3 dots, it'll say include audio. Then I think maybe, I don't know if you've included that. Maybe that could be a problem.
It is on at this stage. Included that. Yeah, it's all ticked off.
Maybe you must just talk us through it then. Because you're standing there, but we can't hear you.
I know the slides are moving, but we don't have any sound. Are you talking? When I'm not sure what's happening, slides are moving, or is it still loading or what?
Nico, it appears as if the video that's running is cutting off all other inputs from my side from here. So it, for some reason, doesn't pick up the video on your systems. It's picked up over here, but it doesn't show it. And I cannot do video or additional comments. I'm linking up in another system at this stage.
Okay. Should we give you 2 or 3 seconds or minutes, and maybe people who want to run for comfort break can do so?
Let me do that.
Nico?
Yes.
Hi, Nico. Sorry, I realized now when I try to reset it, we've got a band with internet connection issue from main campus this morning. That's why it does not send through all of the details and try to play half of it. So it's not going to pick up on the sound. It cuts down on that part of the bandwidth.
Okay. Do you want to maybe just give us a talk, take us through, and maybe tell us what you guys are doing? Because I think you're doing exceptionally good work. So maybe just give us a talk, put your face on and give us a
That's
talk.
fine. Give me
Is that all
2
right?
seconds and I'll go and run it on the different system.
Thanks.
I just want to stop that one. I can't. I need some time. Okay. Let me just get it over here. Then you should be able to see it. Almost there. We have to just, yeah, no, I have to reset the system over here in 2 seconds.
Don't worry. I just want to ask, I want to ask Barry Pierce in the meantime while you're battling.
That's good. I'm rebooting quickly and then you can talk.
Okay, Barry, there's our Monday meeting for training and that we doing. Don't you want to just share with the guys what that is? Hello? Barry, are you with us?
Welcome to this virtual
There we are.
of Engineering 4.0.
This is Engineering 4.0, our latest research facility on the Innovation Africa campus of the University of Pretoria. At this facility, we plan to train and educate and do research with engineers of the future, looking at intelligent transportation and infrastructure. That is important for South Africa as well as the rest of the continent, because in a fourth industrial revolution era, we need to make sure that our engineers can support the livelihood of our communities through making sure that we provide the best infrastructure available. The facility is supported and has been developed through the generous support from SANRAL and the University of Pretoria, and we will operate it together with the CSIR. Welcome to Engineering 4.0.
The vision of Engineering 4.0 is to have a sustainable, optimized, smart, equitable transportation network that supports social and economic development in a disruptive and evolutionary society. The Innovation Africa at UP campus hosts Engineering 4.0. It is about 2.5 kilometers from the UP Hatfield campus and shares this campus with the Future Africa facility, with the N1 and N4, as well as the CSIR being neighbors. The regional design provides for a multi-phase approach, of which phase 1, which is currently completed, looks at the SANROL training and reference laboratories, the concrete laboratory, the accelerated pavement testing track, and an active traffic lane on the highway. The training laboratory is a facility where we can train up to 20 sets of technicians or do their certification at any one stage. It's got a dedicated compaction area, as well as all the equipment that may be required to train and certify technicians and students in the standard laboratory testing methods. The reference laboratory provides us with a facility to conduct duplicate testing of materials from our site. It's got a good reception area with storage for all of our standards, asphalt laboratory, bitumen laboratory, granular materials laboratory, and a stabilized materials laboratory. The concrete laboratory is the area where we do most of our undergraduate, postgraduate, and research work on concrete materials. Provides a large space where we've got a humidity room that can run up to 97% relative humidity at various temperatures, as well as a host of curing baths, not only for research samples, but also for various other testing regimes that we would like to operate from this facility. We've got an APT track situated just north of the Engineering 4.0 facility. This APT track is 100 meters long and 6 meters wide and allows for the construction of various types of pavement structures for testing with any of the APT devices. The active traffic lane provides us with a unique facility where sensors can be installed inside, next, and over the road, and we can monitor active real traffic as they travel along this portion of the highway. We have a data house situated right next to the highway, which provides us with the opportunity to observe traffic, do various types of measurements, and obtain information on vehicle pavement interaction. It is connected to our main fiber network. Recently, we added the York Structural Timber Laboratory to Engineering 4.0. In this space, we will set up a range of timber research equipment to support this very important niche in our materials and construction area in civil engineering. I hope you enjoy this very short virtual tour and would like to welcome you in person in the near future. If there are any questions, you are welcome to contact us or look at our website. Thank you very much. Thank you, Nico.
Thanks, Wynand. That's short and sweet. You guys have done an exceptionally good thing there. I remember when we started talking about it, you told us about it, and we were hoping to come and visit you. Basil and my other colleagues can maybe just help us. We're planning for the next RPF meeting to be held at CSIR, if that's possible. Said?
12th to the 14th, Nico.
November, hey?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So maybe Wynand
it's the 12th November, 11th, 12th November. Sorry, 11th, 12th November, I think it is.
11th, 12th November, yes. It's 11th, 12th at CSIR, yeah. We'll see how that goes. But Wynand, thanks. Maybe we can pop around and get the feel of the whole situation. You guys are doing an exceptionally good work there.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I think if there's some of the supporters here that sponsor this thing. Is there anybody who wants to say something? I'll give you a chance before we close off and say Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. Anybody? Saeed?
Nico, no, thank you, Nico, for chairing this particular event. It's been quite interesting. The last three we've had virtual, and we've had some great attendance, and it's good to see that. We do plan to have the next RPF at the CSR, and because it's so important that we not only share technical content, but there's an opportunity to network, meet each other, because that strengthens relationship, and so we're trying to do that. So do look out in the next month or so for a registration and agenda that will come along. And we look forward to meeting up with you in person at this event. Thank you for your attendance. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Saeed. Anybody else? Right. If there's nobody who wants to say something, then I must just say thank you. He has one hand, I see. Sorry, there's a hand. Zolo?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I also would like to thank everybody for their contribution on this wonderful session. It was so good that I would love to maybe go through it again. So, the question is that is it possible, or how can we get maybe a copy of the recording? Is it possible?
Okay, that's a very good question. I nearly forgot about it. I've just spoken while Wynand was busy. I spoke to my office and we spoke to the computer guy. We'll have it ready tomorrow and we'll send it out. So I will share it tomorrow and because it takes a bit of time to load it and to whatever they do to it. The computer guys know. So we'll have it ready tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Nick, it should also be hosted under the CSR website, the RPF website, and
Yes.
the CSR eventually. Yeah.
Yes. What we'll do is we'll send it to you and to everybody else, Basil and Brian Perry and everybody, and then we'll send it to the website. So, yeah, I think it's such a good presentation or set of presentations that we should share it and allow people to just look through it. There's another comment. Yoko?
Yes, Nico. I just wanted to ask if there are any CPD points attached to this presentation.
No, not that I'm aware of. No.
Okay,
No.
thank you.
Right, that's the end. And then I just want to say to everybody, go well and maybe look after yourselves. We're in level 1, but COVID hasn't gone yet. So please look after yourselves and enjoy the rest of the day. And it's a short week. So thank you very, very much for that. Right, guys, I'm going to end off and then we'll shut down.
Thanks, Nico. Bye.
Thanks, guys.